Welcome to Two Brothers Radio Control. Consider joining us on Discord. Our server is designed to be accommodating to all kinds of pilots. The link is in the description. Come talk planes with us.
What's going on, YouTube? Today I've got the FMS Viper 70mm. You may know this better as the E-flite Viper 70mm. And this was one of the first jets that I learned on. Actually is the first jet that I learned to fly with. So the Viper 70, if you remember the E-flite version, it comes in white with some camouflage schemes on it from Aircraft Studio Design. This thing looks awesome though. It's a nice change of pace from the usual white. It looks kind of like a Blue Angels version of the jet. I mean, look at this thing. It's beautiful. It's got a really nice paint scheme all over it. Really kind of gins up some interest in it, I'd like to think. Some of the mods we did to it straight off is what we were flying with 150% rates. All the throws are maximized. Generally speaking, is how we like to do that here. This is flying on the newest 70mm motor. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, so it's going to pop up on screen and tell you exactly what it is. This thing runs with an 80 amp ESC instead of a 70 amp. And on top of that, we also have the GPS sensor in it from Horizon Hobby, the Spectrum line with an AR8360T shoved in the top here. And we have independent controls over the ailerons and flaps, and we have a trimmable nose wheel as well. On top of that, we also put in Dubro low bounce wheels because the stock wheels are really, really hard, and it will make the plane bounce a lot. You should absorb some of that landing energy, even if the landings aren't perfect. Even if they are perfect, sometimes they get screwed up too. So just something to be aware of. It's a cheap upgrade. It costs about 20 bucks to put a new set of wheels on it. I think the Bros are going to be what I put on almost everything going forward. So we're going to go ahead and get a battery in here, which is going to be an SMC 4000 pack. Danny does not make these anymore, but he's going to be making them in high voltage, as I recall, from our last conversation I had with him. And we're going to have a lot of fun with this thing. So let's go ahead and cut to that and get to it.
Got pretty good ground handling. I do have the nose wheel set to be trimmable. You can't even hear the wheels rolling, can you, man?
No, not like a 70 Viper with the battery wheels.
All right, let's get her up. Oh, and we also have a 5280 burner in the tail too. Got a little bit of a trim issue with the nose wheel. There we go, trimmed it out on the radio. We do have the on-screen GPS. We're currently going 56 miles per hour. Very turbulent up there. Flies just like I remember it, man. Pretty good roll rate for a 70mm jet. All the hinges are foam. I didn't get around to talking about that in the pre-flight, which is okay. We're not going to jostle this thing around too much because it will cause the canopy to come off in mid-flight. That is an issue that the Vipers generally tend to have. It does do pretty good at knife edge though. Tracks like an arrow. We'll probably get some knife edge performance with it here in a second, coming down the runway. Let's see how it stalls. That's something we should actually talk about with this jet. This is one of the reasons why I recommend this jet to newcomers. So if you go up and you hold the elevator full back, even with some power, watch as it drops the right wing. There it goes and goes into a spiral. So this jet does have some nasty stall tendencies you have to be aware of. It doesn't matter if it's the E-flite version or if it's the FMS version. The jet is just capable of doing that. It's often called a tip stall, but really you don't need to call it that. Just call it a stall, guys. It stalls. It drops a wing. Every model has its own unique stalling characteristics.
23.45 volts.
Plenty of power left in this SMC 4000. Let's see if we can get it to hover up there real quick. Well, got a hammerhead out of it, which wasn't intentional. Let's do a little bit of speed testing with it. The wind is coming from the back, so let's turn the
3.29 volts.
Turn the GPS on.
42.3 miles per hour.
Actually, we don't even need to do that
23.4
because we have it on screen right now. Bring it down, throttle up.
That's fast for a 70 Viper.
Let's see how fast it really was.
340.8 feet ASL.
Okay, hold on a second.
Maximum speed 106.9 miles per hour.
106. I need to change the call out so when I press the button I get the max speed. We'll see it on screen either way.
Yeah, 300. That was
a little wobbly. A lot of that is turbulence. I can't really tell. It could be gyro issues too. Let's see what the max speed there was.
Maximum speed 106.9 miles, 283.4
All right.
3 minutes.
Let's use that wind to our advantage. Come at us.
Maximum speed 107.5 miles per hour.
So we got 107 out of it, which is not too bad. Or sorry, 107. 107. Not too bad, not too bad. So yeah, when you're flying this jet, this one is one of the ones that I recommend to people, whether it's under the E-Flight or FMS labels, because it's a jet that teaches you how to fly a jet. Why don't you go ahead and take a couple steps back for me, bud? We're gonna just bring it in real quick. I'm gonna try to land with as few flaps as possible, because right now it's just it's a little windy and turbulent. This plane does not slow down without flaps.
23.2.
Yeah, I almost had it, but then I started getting crosswinded, and then I just decided it was best not to do it. We can try a flap approach and see how it handles. We'll take it up in the air first. I don't want it to just drop out on me while I'm trying to land it. So we're gonna drop the gear up here, nice and high. Full flaps, they should be deployed all the way by now. Okay, we're slowing down the landing speed, pulling, all the way back. And there's the wing drop. Okay, so it's actually, it's pretty stable. The problem with this Viper jet in particular is that it does not have a very forgiving stall, and if you get the center of gravity too far back, it's not even tail heavy when it starts to get squirrely. If it's not nose heavy, this plane will not fly correctly with flaps. It will drop out of the sky. There we go.
You can ask RC Pilot Will about that. Stalling
A little
like
bouncy. That's because it's nose heavy. We are not flying in the best conditions right now, guys. As you can see, these clouds going by. This is the remnants of that hurricane. What was it, Nicole? That just went by?
Nicole.
So that's on its way up to the northeast right now, but it's making its way through us currently.
Gear tap, flaps full.
Is there power?
22.75 volts.
Got one more go around at most in us, so let's go ahead and get ready to bring it down. Yeesh. Yeah. It is super nose heavy. Like I had it full stick back at the end there, and it just wanted to bounce. So let's get it back. It's tracking straight now. It's funny how it works. I think it's just getting windmilled in the wind. So I did put electrical tape on the wings, just in case that happened. Which is, I had a feeling it would. So we look at the, which one was it? Here it is right here. So you can see I've got the tape on there taking the brunt of these impacts. So it did kind of hit it a little bit further out. All I got to do is put some more tape on it right there. But you can see the tape did take some of that impact. Is it nice and clear?
Nice and clear.
All right, so that's the whole point of the electrical tape that I talked about with the A10 guys, because these models, especially with this water-based paint, they're going to end up, like if you get any scrapes, it's going to come right off. So it's it's a cheap fix that you can put on here. It doesn't look exactly like the paint, but it looks better than scraped off paint does, I think, personally.
The Viper 70 has something for everyone. It's a very stable design and tracks like an arrow through most maneuvers. It shines especially in high-speed knife edge, requiring very little aside from rudder and full throttle. Full throttle passes are another area where the Viper excels. Like its big sister, the Viper 90, it doesn't drift and it isn't obviously susceptible to turbulence at speed. It does perform well inverted, but you'll need a decent amount of stick input to keep it level. This is the jet that we recommend to newcomers specifically because it does stall, and it teaches how stall speed increases with bank angle. You can see me overbanking the jet while pulling the elevator at too low of an airspeed, resulting in a couple of predictable stalls. Landing the Viper is a challenge. You'll want 150% rates, full deflections for all surfaces, and you'll want the battery pushed back to the rear of the cabin.
There we go.
Once this is done, the jet will flare momentarily before it stalls. Landing is tricky, but you'll eventually get the hang of it. More advanced jets than the Viper tend to be easier to land, so this jet does instill some good habits for landing as well.
Yeah, it lands way better now. Okay, Could not get it to track straight. Glad I just jammed the rudder stick at the last second. My man's over here getting the shot, right?
Yeah.
It's slowing down real quick because of this wind.
Ooh.
Alright guys, so by this point you've seen us fly the Viper 70mm. It's a great little jet. It's the same exact one from the E-flite version, except the motor is more powerful and it's got a better ESC in it. It does have the exact same servos. It does come with flaps, contrary to what it says on the FMS website. You can see them here. We've been using them for landings and takeoffs. Aside from what I would consider to be must-have upgrades, putting these Dubrow wheels onto it, I will say that this is a really, really good airplane for a beginner, and for people who are more experienced like me and have had more flight hours, it's still something you can get a lot of fun out of. Some of those low, high throttle, just right off the deck passes, just like this, maybe not even much higher than this off the ground. That's just pure fun, and it does it so well that it's remarkable how well it flies. It does have some nasty stall tendencies. I believe Will caught some of that where I was trying to bank in to land and it just rolled inverted. And even with how high I was, like 100 and 150 feet, it was like getting a little sketchy. I wasn't sure if I could pull it off, but I got it down. So that's just something to be aware of. For elevators and flaps, make sure that you don't give it very much down trim, if any at all. Honestly, it's probably best if you don't give it any elevator trim for the flaps on either takeoff or landing, because it just doesn't seem to need it, and it just kind of makes the nose push down. I thought it was nose heaviness earlier. It was just a very aggressive elevator that I had compensating for the flap setting. So overall, you want my score on it, I'll give it to you. This is a solid 9 out of 10 jet, especially for beginners. This is the jet that's going to teach you how a jet actually flies. It's going to teach you about wing loading. It's going to teach you about why you need to keep your wings level as much as you can, because if you pull them, the elevator's too hard and the plane, it'll just drop. It'll just drop a wing in a stall, and then you'll have a hard time getting it back. Part of that is because it's got too much wing lift being generated at the tips with these what do you call it, what are those things, winglets on it, but also just because it's the shape of the wing. So this actually might truly experience what people tend to call a tip stall, where it does form at the wingtip, or maybe they call it a tip stall because the plane looks like it's tipping over in the sky. I don't know. The aerodynamic term for it does look like it would actually be starting at the wingtip, but it doesn't really matter because recovery is the same. Push the nose down, get some airspeed over the wings, and then try to pull out of it. Don't try to keep yanking it, because if the more you yank it, the worse it's going to become, and then it turns into a pile of busted foam and broken dreams. That all being said, solid 9 out of 10. I do wish that the retracts could have been upgraded to the point where we have better suspension, but you can work around that by using these Dubrow wheels. They give you plenty of suspension. Let's look at it on the ground. When you go to press it, so you can see the plane squishing into the ground. So that's where your suspension is going to come from if you upgrade to these wheels. See how they kind of squish? So, especially in the nose wheel too. So it gives it very silent rolling too. You can barely hear it. It's nice. I like it. It's a $20 upgrade to it. It's really all you need to do to it, honestly. Aside from that, just be aware of the stall tendencies, and if you're a beginner, this is a great option for you, and it's not terribly expensive either. And if you guys want to pick one up, check it out. The link's in our description, and we'll see you guys again out there. Have a good one.